And I advise lots of entrepreneurs. I've been doing it many years. I'm a Kaufman coach. The biggest impediment to being a successful entrepreneur is that you lack the courage to start. That's the hardest thing to do.
Dr. Bernstein, I'm super excited to have you join me for this episode of Coffee with Closers.
I'm happy to be here.
When I was preparing for this podcast, I just looked at your bio and all your accomplishment. You're a trained doctor, surgeon, serial entrepreneur, founded multiple companies, even took one company public during the dot-com bust era, and then have founded multiple companies since then and have so many innovations and patents and everything you've been able to accomplish over these years. Such an accomplishment. I'm super proud to even have you as a guest. But of all the things you've accomplished in your career, what can you tell us what you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of doing what I started out to do after I finished my surgical training. So I spent 2 years with Jonas Salk, and there may be some people who watch your podcast who are old enough to know who Jonas Salk is. He was the gentleman who he's an interesting fellow. He was the first person to use industrialized techniques to do research, medical research. And out of that came the first polio vaccine. And for those of you who've been following what's going on in Gaza, where they're vaccinating thousands and thousands of children against polio, he was the inventor of the polio vaccine. And I worked with him. And one of the things that he told me when I was working for him, try and spend your time doing big things. Don't do little things. And by big things, he meant things that influence lots and lots of people. So I'm proud of the fact that I've done pretty much what he asked me to do. So every company that I have started and built successfully had a big impact on lots and lots and lots and lots of people, every one of them. And my current one is no exception to that rule. I'm proud of that. I'm also proud of the fact that a lot of the people who I worked for me over the years, students, young people, many of them gone on to very major leadership positions. I got off the phone about 2 hours ago with somebody who worked with me right out of school on the West Coast, and I hadn't talked to him in probably 30 years, and I got in touch with him, and he has been phenomenally successful across all sorts of social enterprise efforts, all sorts of stuff. I'm proud of that. I've had that impact on people. I've tried to steer them toward using their life in a way that's worthwhile, which is not pleasing your parents.
You want to elaborate on that? What you mean by not pleasing your parents?
Sure, I'm happy to. I have graduate students and seniors in college often who I mentor through capstone projects that they do at the end of their educational experience. And I'm struck by the fact that they're very performance oriented. Tell me what to do. How will I be judged? How do I get graded? They show me the outline for their college course, 10% for this, 20% for this, 30% for that, 40% for this, 10%. And they want to make sure that they perform so they get their grade. And they do that because their parents say, I'm spending all this money on college, you better do something. My best example of that, of what I mean by performing for parents, I had an intern who was a senior in a local university, and he was very interested in global health. So it came toward the end of his senior year, and I said, Ben, what are you going to do now? He said, I've got a job here in Washington. He had a job with a big USAID consulting company. And I said, if I could get you an internship, being an assistant to one of the leading obstetricians in Tanzania, working at a local hospital as her assistant for a year, what do you think? And he said, oh my goodness, I could do that? I said, give me 48 hours. So I dropped an email to a friend of mine in Tanzania and said, I got an all-star assistant for you for a year. If you can find him a place to live and give him room and board, he's good. That was no problem. So I said, Ben, you're all set. I said, what's the problem? He says, my father says, I paid for your college and you have a job here in Washington. It's paying you real money. And why did you go to college in the first place? His dad came graduation came along, and his dad came to the office. And Ben introduced me to his dad. And I said, your son is fantastic, and I've got this fantastic opportunity for him in Tanzania. If he does that, he's going to be able to be far more valuable than anybody who went to work for a local consulting company. And his father said, well, are they going to pay him? I said, probably not. They'll give him room and board. And he looked at his son and he said, I've taught you, Ben, all my life that a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Hmm.
And I looked at his father. I apologize to your podcast listeners if I offend anybody, but I said to his dad, I taught my children that a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush unless it's a pile of shit in your hand. And I said, Ben's got a pile of shit in his hand. And his father was horrified. He looked at me, and Ben said, Dad, I'm going to Tanzania. That's it. I'm going. He went for a year, got into the Harvard School of Public Health, and now he's a senior person in USAID. And he's 10 years out of school. And had he gone to work for the consulting company, he'd have been buried in the photocopy
Just another
machine.
number.
So that's what I mean by
don't please your parents.
dancing for your parents. That's a good example. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. So I did it. But then I decided to do something else. And I thought when I told them that, they were both going to croak. But they got over it. That's what I mean.
But then you also said it's not pleasing your parents, but you want to actually do something for your kids. So what's the alternative to pleasing parents and not just doing whatever you want to do with your life?
Yep. It's very, say that again. I don't want to
You've mentioned prior to our episode, you've mentioned that you don't want to please your parents, but you want to do everything so your kids can follow your footsteps, or you want to leave a good example for your children.
Yeah. I never, if I understand your question properly, I haven't had a job. I think the last job I had was when I was at the Salk Institute. That was a job. I've never had a job after that, ever. Everything I've ever done, I've done because I wanted to do it. I found ways to do it. When I became an entrepreneur 40 years ago, that was it. If you don't have an idea, if you can't raise the money, if you don't have something somebody wants, you don't survive. But you don't work for a big company where you have a job 9 to 5, and you worry about getting fired, but you don't worry about the job going bankrupt. Although today that happens. People get laid off now, but I've never had a job, and my employer is my customer.
Yeah. How do you think your early days in the preventive medicine field prepared you to become a very successful entrepreneur?
I get asked that question a lot, and there's an assumption, which is we make choices in a rational way. I don't know about you, how you end up doing what you're doing, but you probably never thought about it until you started to do it. It wasn't in the plan. I'm perfectly fine telling people that I was very opportunistic. Things came along. People said, why don't we do this? And I said, sure, I'll do that. And it wasn't until what I'm in now that I took a very concrete step to say, now I am choosing to do this because I decided to do this. This is what I'm going to do. But before that, it was always the company before this one, somebody showed up at I was gardening outside my house, and a lady came up to me and started chatting and asked me if I'd met her daughter, and then her daughter came up and said, you meet a friend of mine who's at the University of Maryland, and blah, blah, blah. Out of that came a company. I wasn't looking for it, but it happened. The gentleman I talked to earlier today worked at a company in California that I got involved with because of a different company that I was doing. Somebody knocked on my door and said, would you help me with this? I said, sure. I don't know if you ever rode on a merry-go-round as a child. Did you ever ride on a merry-go-round?
I get dizzy, so I stay off of them, but yes, I have.
So one of the things that you teach your children when you put them on the merry-go-round, at least I was, it goes round and round. And if you, at some point, a gold ring drops on a string. And if you're on one of the horses on the outside and you're in the area, you can grab the gold ring. If you grab the gold ring, it breaks on the little thread. And you give the gold ring to the guy when you get off the merry-go-round, you get a prize. You get a big stuffed animal. I thought that was one of the more brilliant ways to raise children. I was taught when we rode the merry-go-round to look for the gold ring. And my approach to life is I always am looking for the gold ring. It's there, but if you're not looking for it, you don't see it. So that's really important. Keep your eyes open. Look for the gold ring. It's there when you least expect it. You're going down in the elevator to your car to go shopping on a Sunday morning, and there's somebody in the elevator. And they say, good morning. And you say, good morning. And they say to you, what do you do? And that's the classic elevator pitch. You're on the 9th floor, and you're going to P4. So you got 11 floors or 12 floors, which is maybe 20 seconds. What do you do? If you can't spit it out, you might miss the opportunity.
So you got to be prepared with what your value proposition and what you stand for to be able to give that as an answer.
What's my?
You want to be prepared to give an answer for whoever that might be in your path.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be about your job. They might ask you, what did you think of the debate last night? You can say I didn't watch it, or you could have an opinion and you can decide whether you want to give them your opinion. But you have to be ready in life because you never know what comes your way. You don't know.
Most certainly. So obviously you had a very comfortable career in medicine. You were a surgeon, have a steady salary and all of those things. But then you, like you said, you saw the opportunity and you took a risk and you jumped into that. Was entrepreneurship everything that you expected it to be?
I'm laughing. There were 64 people in my medical school class. 64 of them went into medicine. One of them didn't. Me. So I went to my 50th reunion a few years ago, and Cornell Medical School, fancy medical school. The dean of the medical school, it was a reunion, big thing, big scene. The dean of the medical school gives a talk. The chancellor, the head of all the people are shaking the can, right? Big show. And then they're done, and somebody looks at me and says, aren't you going to talk to the class? Where does that come from? Why me? There are 64 other people there. Why'd you ask me? Because I'm the only person in the class who is not a practicing doctor, who's actually done something with my life. They've all retired. They're all playing golf. They're all at the fitness center. Their wives are all going, they were all men at the time. They're all going crazy. And I'm doing something. So they wanted to hear about it. And I got up and I said, you guys are all wasting your time. You're wasting the best times of your life. You're all highly educated. You have acquired experience. This makes you wise and you're doing nothing. What's the matter with you? And I was on a call with my class a month ago. They have a Zoom meeting once a month. Out of the 64, there are 8 people who show up. They're all retired. They're all doing nothing. I'm doing something. I didn't think about the fact that if I stayed a surgeon, I could have my house in La Jolla, have $5 million in the bank, and don't have a financial worry at all. Do whatever I want to do, travel. Lovely. Fantastic. I chose not to do that. I'm an entrepreneur. So the story of an entrepreneur is, at least when I do what I do, is you have a success, you have a little money, you start the next thing, you use up all the money, this one, and you keep going. Here I am, and I've been very successful. I've had a big impact on a lot of people, and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and my bank account is probably smaller than my daughter's by an order of magnitude. But I'm very happy because I'm doing what I chose to do, and I'm having a big impact on people. But I didn't do it for the money. Okay, if you look at American medicine today, it's all about the money. It's being bought up by private equity firms, and they're telling doctors you have to see 10 patients an hour, and you have to be, if you're not billing for all these procedures, you're fired. Get out of here. We're making money. We don't care about people. So, not for me.
Yeah, that's very sad. I have an endocrinologist that retired and who was also the same doctor that I've ever liked the most because he would take 20 minutes with you, but he was in his late 70s and the medical system couldn't tell him what to do because he was extremely thorough in his examination. He would review all your medical records and he makes recommendations that are very methodical and thought through, and he was not a rushed guy. Whereas my new endocrinologist is like 3 minutes and in and out, and they want you out of that room. So I'm totally and personally aware of what the medical system is becoming in the US, for sure.
Yeah.
But obviously, you built an information business, the bioinformation startup, right? You had this company called Infomax, and you took that company public. You've had great success with that run. So, what are some lessons learned raising capital and taking company public that you did not even want to bring into this new company that you have anywhere? Why'd you decide to go in a completely different direction in terms of how to fund it and grow this company?
So that's a lot of questions. So raising money. Raising money is an art, and it's very hard. It is very hard, and it's not for everybody. And I've been doing it a long time, and I've done a lot of it, and it doesn't get any easier. Number one, most sophisticated investors do not invest in ideas. They do not invest in PowerPoint presentations. They do not invest in prototypes. They invest in entrepreneurs. That's what they invest in. I did not say people, I said entrepreneurs. That's what they invest in. And if you don't have a track record, you're not an entrepreneur. You're somebody with an idea. You're not going to get a sophisticated investor to give you money. So that's where family and friends come in, because they give you money because you're in the family. And maybe they give you $5,000, but they give you something. Or maybe you're somebody who you don't have any family and friends with money. Then your next level up are angel investors. And angel investors, some of them, the smaller ones, they actually enjoy meeting people who are not yet entrepreneurs, but they're expensive. They want a lot for their little money that they give you, which is fine. I wouldn't worry about it. And the reason why I would not worry about it is that if you think you're going to get rich from your company, and therefore I do not want to let anybody own a lot of the stock in my company because I'm going to get rich from my company, you're missing the point. Because it doesn't matter whether you sell 20 or 30 or 40% of your company for $1 or $2 or $5 or $50 or $100 or $1,000,000. It does not matter. What matters is, what is the value of the stock that the day your company gets bought? Okay, so you don't take money unless you think that money is going to make your company more valuable. That's the whole principle behind taking money. You don't worry about how much it's going to cost you. If you think the company is not going to be very successful, then you're asking someone to pay your salary. You're not trying to get an investor. So people worry too much about that. After that, your goal, if you have an angel investor, your goal should be to make them really proud of you. And you'll make lots and lots and lots of mistakes, and you don't know anything, which is fine. Don't think that you know something when you don't. Don't tell somebody you know something when you don't. My stance today, after doing all that I've done, is I don't know very much, and I don't really know a lot. What's your advice? So early on, a very good rule of thumb is money follows advice. Ask for a lot of advice and take it, and then you'll get the money. After you get past that beginner's stage, you don't need people like me anymore to tell you how to raise money, because you will learn a lot yourself and you'll develop your own approach. So all these internet sites, how to make a winning PowerPoint presentation, I don't know. They're all pretty so obvious that it's not necessarily. If you know what you're doing and you believe in it, then you should be able to tell people what it is, why I'm excited about it, and why you should be. So that's a high view. The other thing, which most people do because they were taught to do that. If you came home from school, your parents said, "How was school today?" How was school today? They don't say, are you interested in telling me about school today, or do you have something else you want to talk about? They don't do that. What you really want to talk to them about was that you got hit over the
Bullied.
head with a baseball bat by Charlie because you got into an argument on the baseball field and you got a hell of a headache. I'm just giving you a funny example, right? I've had children. Parents, how was school today? So if you meet an investor, you do what's called showing up and throwing up. Oh, I'm going to tell you about my great company. I have this wonderful idea. Blah, 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 blah. You go on and on and on. And you don't do what's called vision alignment at the very beginning. Hello, why are we talking? Oh, I heard about you. I understand you have a very interesting school that your kids go to. I'd like to hear about it. Not an investor. I'm interested. I heard, you have an interesting business idea. I'd like to know about it. Why? Not let me tell you about it. Why? Well, I'm really interested in global health. I'm not talking about my current company. Oh, what do you know about global health? Nothing. Why are you interested in it? My friends tell me I should be. You're going to talk to that person a little different than someone says, I'm a chairman of the Department of Global Health at Harvard, and I have a trust fund that's got $100 million and I'm looking for an investment. That's a different act. You have to know who you are talking to and why they're talking to you. Now, I get calls all the time from people who want to provide a service. They want to help me raise money. They want to redo my website. They want to sell me springs for my product. I don't know what it is. And the only ones that I end up talking to are the ones who take the time to find out, is it worth their while talking to me? You and I talked. Why am I talking to you? Because we have a mutual interest here. You're trying to have a podcast that's interesting for people, and I like talking to people. So that's why we're doing it, right? But you and I spent an hour before I agreed to do it because I don't want to waste my time. So showing up and throwing up, do not do that. Step one, vision alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can practice vision alignment with your friends. It's, who are you? I ask people to tell me who they are. And I ask them, what are you best at? You ask an investor, what are you best at? They look at you like this. And they say, why do you ask me that? And I say, I'm just trying to find out what your motivation is and whether we're going to get along. I said, because if you're not doing what you're best at, I can't imagine you really enjoy it very much. I can't imagine somebody spending their life, but they're doing something they're second best at. I do that. And I save a lot of time because you get past people who are not going to give you any money, so don't waste your time. But raising money is early on is persuading somebody that you are a good bet, not your product, not your idea, but you. And they want to know if you have the ability to admit when you don't know something, whether you can take advice, whether you can change direction quickly if what you're doing is not working, and that your motivation is clear, perfectly clear. That's
Yeah.
a long answer to your question.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is not just only for raising capital. I think it's even for finding a partner for your business or even doing sales, right? Like even if you're trying to sell your product or service to somebody else, you want to make sure that there's a vision alignment of what their expectation of what your product or service is and what you want in a customer as well. You just don't want
Well,
to make a sale.
now you're talking about uh, something different, which is what does it take to build a successful business? I was talking to someone this week and I asked him about his family, and he told me about his daughter who's going to medical school. And I said, wow, why is she doing that? And he said, she's really interested in business. That's interesting. So, how does that explain that? He said she's always been an entrepreneur. She said, we had a dog. Listen, I'm telling you a true story. We had a dog. And when she was 9 years old, she got into training her dog and got into dog competitions. And she ended up on the U.S. trained dog Olympic team. These dogs that go through all kinds of courses and whatever. That was at the age of 15. And then he said, she came up to me one day and she said, Dad, I'm starting a camp for kids with dogs. And he said she now has 150 camps around the United States, summer camps for people with dogs to teach them how to train their dogs. They're summer camps. And they make money. She's interested in business, but she's also very interested in medicine. So in her application to medical school, she says, I want to be a doctor because I'm really interested in healthcare, but I'm interested in the business aspects of healthcare and why the American healthcare system is being demolished by business and needs to be fixed. There's someone who knows what she's doing, right? So she didn't do that business by herself. She had people from the Olympic team, her colleagues on the Olympic team, help her with the summer camps. She did it with people who knew what they were doing. I have never, ever built a business alone. And I've never had an original idea in my life. There's always been people I work with. They have the ideas. I just make it happen. I have plenty of ideas, but I give them to these people. And I take their ideas and we make businesses out of them. But you'll never build a business by yourself, ever. Yeah. And if all you do is hire people who don't threaten you, or not much better than you, you'll never get there. I have never hired somebody who I thought was weaker than me. I don't. They got to be smarter than me and better than me. Then I hire them. And I don't regret it. For me, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to find people smarter than me. That's not a hard job.
I think that just shows you humility as well, recognizing your weakness and not ashamed of someone who's brighter than you, who's part of your team, and telling you maybe some things that you may or may not be doing right.
You can't. I have friends who work in international institutions. They're not for-profit enterprises, and they do not have any cooperative behaviors. If you ask somebody at one of these institutions, can you help me? I don't have time. I don't know. How do I find a cup of coffee? I don't know. Nobody helps anybody. It just isn't there. There's no reason to do it. People want to keep their visa. They want to get their income. They don't care. If you're building a company from scratch, if somebody doesn't care, you're in trouble. They better really care.
Sounds like government offices. When you go there, they have no interest in helping anybody.
I said public institutions.
Exactly. Right? I just recently had a very similar experience trying to go pick up a birth certificate for my newborn, and just the treatment I've gotten at the court was not the best I experienced.
So I'll give you a story from my career. I'll keep it. I was asked probably 30 years ago to work in a major government center. I'm going to leave it that way. And I was hired at the highest federal pay scale with an unlimited travel budget for 2 years. Wow, people said, what kind of a gold-plated job is that? How did you pull that off? I spent the first month, there were 7 people in the office, interviewing each one of them. And my question to each one of them was, what are you doing that the American people are paying your salary for? What do you mean? I don't understand the question. I said, you're working for the United States government in a U.S. government center that's got a job to do. What are you doing to help that job? I don't know. 7 out of 7, including the director. I was a consultant. So at the end of 60 days, I walked into the director's office that hired me, and I quit. And I said, I'm not going to spend 2 years teaching 7 people how to be motivated and do their job. That's not what I came here for. And I said, this is hopeless. I'm not doing it. He was shocked. I went back to my office. I called a meeting and the 7 people in the conference room. And I said, I just resigned. What? And I said, you're the reason, all of you, because you couldn't answer this question. And you all better go look in the mirror and ask yourself, can I tell my kids that I'm getting paid to do nothing? That I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, that I don't even care about it. I said, you try that. So guess what? A month later, 7 out of 7 people quit.
Wow.
They were so embarrassed. 7 for 7. They all quit because they never did anything.
I'm
So
surprised.
I'm
That's
you don't build companies with people who don't care about what they're doing.
no. And it's also proves the reason why we get nothing done in our government system because of the inefficiencies.
I don't want to journal. There are people who do amazing stuff. Amazing. But there are other people who don't.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me. I'm going to get into the world of politics.
I don't like getting into the politics side of our government.
But I would also say that if you're the children of someone like that, you're far better off saying my daddy works for the government than to say my daddy's unemployed. So we have a system, I think, that takes care of a lot of people, recognizing that if we didn't take care of them, they'd be more expensive. I'm serious. And I don't have any problem with that because I think that the kids have to be proud of their parents.
That's true. So obviously you built several companies.
Yep.
You were describing the importance of raising capital and what goes into it and all of those things. And obviously you also have a big focus on social impact more than just profitability. Like you said, you may not have the biggest bank account and all of those things, even though you've impacted a lot of lives in the process of all the products and businesses you built. So how do you balance this whole concept of social impact at the same time also having to account for profitability and making a business run like a business?
You'll find out that I like to tell stories. So my son was a cross-country runner in high school. And he was at a local school. And the team won everything in the Washington, D.C. area. Everything. And they were just average kids. Nothing. They were not special. They weren't recruited. They were the ones who didn't want to play football. They didn't want to play soccer. So they did cross-country. They had to do something. And the coach turned them into the winningest team in the whole area. And his approach was phenomenally simple. He told the kids, in cross-country running, there's only one person you're competing against, yourself. He said, as long as in practice you do a little better every day, you should be proud of yourself because that's the only person that counts. And when you're running the race, do not look at anybody else in the race. Just run your race. And he said, because we time everybody, we know what your speed is. We know that if you run at the speed that you're now running at, you will win. So don't worry about it. But that's not why you do it. You're competing with yourself. So accountability is dancing for your parents. And then there's the accountability to yourself. So if you're taking investors' money, you have to know that it's somebody else's money, and you better take good care of it. But you also don't do things because you know that you have to do it because someone else's money. You should be doing it because you know what's right to do and what's best to do. And that's why people invested in you, because they believe that's who you are. So I've never lost an investor money yet. Maybe I'll do it this time, but I haven't yet because I've always done what I thought was best. I sought advice and I took decisions, but I never said, "Oh, we better not do that because the investors wouldn't like it." They're betting on me. I tell them what I'm doing and I ask their advice sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's me. So you're not performing for your parents. I'll keep reminding you. Dancing for your investors, performing for your parents. Dancing in front of the mirror at night when you brush your teeth is what you should be doing. I don't know if you think about that. I point that out to people all the time. You ask somebody, do you look in the mirror at night when you brush your teeth? Kids don't do that. If you have kids, they walk around the house with the toothbrush in them like this. But adults don't do that. They stand in the bathroom and they look in the mirror. What do you do?
I do stand in front of the mirror and make sure that I did a great job.
You do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Why?
I,
Why do you do that?
I don't know. It just became a routine. No
And
idea.
I'll tell you what I've concluded because I've asked a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
And you tell me if I'm wrong. It's the only time in the day when you can look yourself in the eye and say, how am I doing? How do I look? Am I getting older? Am I getting fat? Am I doing the right thing? Are my kids okay? Does my wife still love me? It doesn't, I don't know what it is, but it's the only moment in time, maybe it's 30 seconds where you're talking to yourself and it's accountability, real accountability. I have used that in my business. I met with a senior executive of one of the largest companies in America at the beginning of all this, looking for some help. And I said at the beginning of the meeting in New York City with very senior people, and they were very intimidating. They were all the spreadsheet people. And I said, I want to be clear why I'm here. I'm here because I'm going to be asking you to help me. That's why I came here. And the guys in the room, there were like 6 guys in the room, there was a lady who was in charge. And the guys looked at me like I was out of my mind. They said, I don't think you understand how this company works, actually. We get people like you here 10 a day, and we go through them all, and then we have reviews, and maybe 6 months from that, we might make a decision about you. I ignored them. I completely ignored all that. I just made my presentation, and I sat down, and I looked at the lady who was the senior executive, and I said, do you brush your teeth at night? She said, yeah. I said, you look in the mirror? She said, yes. I kid you not. And I said, you have kids? Yeah. How old? 3 and 5. I said, do you read to them at night before they go to bed? Yes, I do. Oh, okay. I want you to, when you're brushing your teeth tonight, I want you to look in the mirror and say, I met Dr. Bernstein today, who's doing blah, blah, blah. And we're not going to help him. And tell that to your daughters. What do you think happened?
I don't know.
You're
She
laughing.
probably be very awkward. And
She sat down and she said, don't worry, Dr. Bernstein, we are going to help you.
oh wow, that's amazing. Why do you think that worked?
Because I made it very personal. That she's in this big impersonal corporation where they have their rules. And I'm telling her, you're in charge, you're standing in front of the mirror, you got little girls you read to every night before you go to bed. And you tell them you met this amazing guy with an amazing thing that you can help him, but you're not going to do it. You try that exercise.
That's a good one. I loved it.
And she said, we're going to help you. They did help me. It wasn't much help, but they helped me. The point was, business is very impersonal. It's spreadsheets, it's processes, it's committees, it's meetings, it's rules. If you're going to do something unusual, you can't do it by the rules. Otherwise, someone else would have done it by now. Or I ask myself all the time, why is this the way it is? I can't fix everything, but I forget, where do you live?
I'm in Chicago.
Ah, okay. You drive a car in Chicago?
I do.
Huh?
I do.
Are there traffic lights in Chicago?
Yes, we do.
Red lights?
Yes.
Red lights and green lights?
Yes.
How do they work?
Well, orange means you have to slow down, red means you have to stop, and green means you can go.
And why do they change from red to green? How does that work?
I don't know.
Oh, I'll tell you how it works. You can sit there, you can time it every 30 seconds. It changes. They run
Mhm.
on, there's a clock somewhere in City Hall that controls all the traffic lights. Wow, that's pretty amazing. You go to Kampala, Uganda, and you'll see that their traffic lights that came from China, they're all on computers. They have
Mhm.
sensors. They look at the traffic in the area and they optimize traffic flow. They're different all the time. They
Mhm.
have a little thing that says you'll be waiting 1 minute and 13 seconds.
Wow.
Or in rush hour, you'll be waiting 2 hours and 42 minutes and 46 seconds.
Wow.
It's completely, well, that's, and why don't we have that in Washington, D.C.?
I don't
Because we
know.
have people who just play by the rules. They just play by the rules. Nobody ever thought we can make life better for people by improving the traffic lights.
Yeah.
In the world they operate in, why is it that in the continent of Africa that's going to have 1 billion new people in the next 20 years, 1 billion, there are 100,000 surgeons short of what's necessary so that the optimum number of C-sections could be done on the people who have their babies.
Mhm.
100,000 people short. How'd that happen? Because people play by the rules, old rules, early 1900s rules, 150-year-old rules about how long it takes to train a surgeon, 15 to 17 years. And I ask, how long does it take to train the people who walked in space this week? 3 years. What's harder? What do you think is
Mhm.
harder? Being a doctor doing that? Come on.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of good insights there. I've been on intersections. I've noticed like I'm the only guy in the entire intersection, and I still have a red light, and I'm just counting seconds. And like, why is it not turning green? It's clearly some people are just playing by the rule, not optimizing
yeah.
for what's actually.
And if you're an entrepreneur, you don't play by the rules. You don't break the law, but you don't play by the rules.
Yeah.
That's why you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah. You're not.
right?
You're if you're just playing by the rules, you're probably just improving things, but you're not innovating. You have
Right.
to innovate.
What was Steve Jobs' innovation at Apple?
So many things. I actually just saw their most recent product announcement just happened a few days ago. It all looks like just improvements on what they already had. No
So
innovation.
his thing, books about it. I'm
Hmm.
just curious. But early on, his thing was what we're making has to look good. These are the fonts we're going to use on all of our computers. It has
Hmm.
to look modern. It has to look cutting edge. It has to look different. We're not
Hmm.
going to use Times New Roman.
Hmm.
Right? He was fixated on the way it looked because he knew that people would never understand what was underneath it. But if he was going to have something cutting edge and novel that required people to buy into it, it had to look really good.
Yeah.
That's out of the box. That's totally not by the rules, right?
Yeah.
I had a computer. I had the first portable computer that was ever made by Ohio Scientific. It looked like a military. It looked like a military destroyer. It was
Hmm.
gray, gunmetal, big box. It was terrible. And he came along with the Apple computer, and it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
People bought it because
Yeah.
it looked good. All
That's
right,
it.
what
It's
else is on your
function.
mind?
It's function and aesthetics. All of those have to come to be there. Obviously, there's a lot of questions I can ask. I guess one parting question that I have is knowing what you know today, what advice would you give the younger James?
Oh, that's easy. And you're going to think this is a stupid answer, but I guarantee you it's not.
Mm.
If you're a young person and you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, there's only one thing you have to do it, and that is you have to stop everything you're doing and do it. You can't be doing something else on the
Mm.
side. You can't start a business while you have a job. You have to quit and put your whole life into it.
Mm.
And the reason why most people don't do that is not because they're not smart enough or they don't have a good enough idea, they don't have enough money. It's because they lack the courage to do it. They're
Mm.
not willing to take the risk. And I advise lots of entrepreneurs. I've been doing it many years. I'm a Kaufman coach. The biggest impediment to being a successful entrepreneur is that you lack the courage to start.
Mm.
That's the hardest thing to do. You start, you can't stop. There's this thing that says if you're in a hole, stop digging. There's a famous line which says, if you're in a hole, find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Famous quote. It's a good quote, but that's different. If you start a company, you're not going to stop digging because you believe in it. But, I don't know. I'm a very good photographer, but I don't think I want a photography business. That's scary. How will I get my first customer? You won't, unless you start. I'd like to open a taco stand. Have you opened it yet? No, you're never going to do it unless you do it. I don't care what it is. I'm going to start up a mobile pet grooming company. I'm going to get a truck, and I'm very good at dogs. I'm going to cats, and I'm going to groom them. I'm going to drive around rich neighborhoods with a big sign on my truck, and I'm going to do their dogs. How's it going? I didn't do it. I had a great idea. I just never did it. Most people don't have the courage to start. So you ask me what's the most important thing to do is to start, and then everything else is easy. Then ask for advice. Don't be proud. Be very aware of what you don't know, and what you don't know, get an answer. You have all kinds of artificial intelligence ways of getting answers. What's the right way to price pancakes? Go online, you can find out. Don't guess. What's the minimum margin required if I'm selling peanuts at a baseball game? If I'm going to stay in business, you can find out. So have the courage to start, and then when you start, know what you don't know. Everything else is simple. People can help you with anything, but you'd have to. I don't know anything about raising money. How can I start a business? Easy. Ask. Help. Find somebody who does. You got a great idea.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. So
Awesome.
That's my answer.
Awesome.
It's not a complicated answer. By the way, most people, who coach entrepreneurs make it much more complicated. I have a 6-week program. You can take it. It's 12 hours of training online, and you can learn how to be an entrepreneur. Avoid those like the plague.
Yeah.
Avoid them.
Like a plague, for sure. Dr. Bernstein, I certainly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for sparing your time and your life and lesson with me. Appreciate your time.
I hope that somebody sees this, and because they watched me, they look at their wife and says, screw it. I just quit my job. I'm starting the business that I've been talking about for the past 9 years.
Yes.
I hope that happens. And then I wish that person all the luck in the world.
Exactly. That's a great way to end our conversation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This episode of Coffee with Closers is brought to you by OneIMS, a leading digital marketing agency helping businesses win new customers. To request a free marketing ROI audit, please visit oneims.com. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.